All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. This is the May Data and Performance Management meeting. If you haven't already, please enter your agency name in the chat box so we know who is participating. We have a pretty short agenda today. I wanted to take some time and talk with this group about future projects for the HMIS team. We kind of have a lot of things that we want to do, but don't necessarily have time to do all of them at once. So we would like some feedback from you on what we should work on first. We're definitely going to be getting to all of these things eventually. It's just kind of prioritizing what's important to you all. And then we also want to look at the rapid rehousing project performance reports that were sent out on Tuesday. So first, let me just check the chat, make sure I didn't already get a question. Nope, we're good. Okay. So these are kind of the high level projects that we would like to work on as an HMIS team. So these projects are things that are not required by HUD or anything like that. These are things that we think will help all of you as service providers and users of HMIS. So first, I kind of want to walk through the big stuff that we have, maybe get some feedback from the group on anything that we don't have on here that you would like to see us work on, and then go into a couple details on this stuff. And then I also have a little poll later. So the data accuracy dashboard, we did already talk about this at a previous meeting. So this is, of the items on this list, this is probably the one closest to being ready. It is a dashboard that you would be able to pull from HMIS that will tell you pretty much what's in HMIS for each of your projects. And the purpose is to help you determine if, at least at a high level, the data is entered correctly. For example, if all of the clients in your project should be veterans, if you had a report that told you that there were 2 clients that were not veterans, you would know, oh, I need to fix my data, and you'd be able to go do that. So that's kind of what the purpose of the data accuracy dashboard is. Another project that we want to work on are the coordinated entry knowledge base article updates. So we created knowledge base articles for the family coordinated entry system when that started. And we've started updating knowledge base articles to incorporate both the individual and veteran systems, but not all of those articles have been updated. So we want to work on all of those so they kind of work for everyone. You can figure it out the way it is now, but it's you know, we would like to make it as clear as possible for all systems. The next item is coordinated entry data quality thresholds. So for all other project types participating in HMIS, we have data quality thresholds in place, and what that means is a certain percentage of responses to each data element that's required by HUD should be valid or filled. And we don't have those yet for coordinated entry. We were waiting for coordinated entry to be in HMIS, which it now is. So at some point we need to develop those data quality thresholds. The next item is a new training learning management software. So hopefully most of you have gone through our HMIS trainings at this point, the online ones that have written lessons with quizzes at the end. We would like to get a new, so the software that's on is the learning management software, and we would like to get a new one that's a little more user-friendly and can allow for a little bit more reporting and just kind of better all around for both us and the users. The next is a project performance report overview document, which kind of outlines all of the measures that you see on the project performance report. This could be useful for new staff that aren't familiar with the report. It could also be useful for funders or anyone else looking at your report that could use some context. The next item is client record request process. So as part of the policies and procedures right now, a client that you're working with can come to your agency and request a copy of their client record. But right now, you can only provide information related to your agency. We would like to develop the process further so that the request would come to 211 and then we could send you their entire record, not just what they did at your agency. And we'd have to probably work on some kind of short report that will format all of that in a way that's easy for your client to look at. So that's the next item. Data quality plan, that is, we already kind of have a data quality plan, but we've been working on updating it to be a little bit more robust and go over the different kinds of data quality in HMIS and how you can work to improve your data quality in each of those types of data quality, as well as what the COC as a whole can do for data quality. And it has references to other documents that can help with data quality also. And then inequity dashboard, we just talked about that a couple months ago at this meeting when Connor from Friendship Shelter showed his dashboard. We would like to do something so each of the agencies can see, can look at their inequity across their projects and their agency as a whole for your own reference. But we haven't really started on that yet. And then the last big category is training videos. So we want to create short videos on different parts of the data entry process in HMIS, data elements. I'll get a little bit more into that in a minute. But yeah, we want to make a bunch of training videos that are available on demand. So before I move on to the next slide, going into a little bit more detail, I wanted to take a minute and see if anybody had any other high-level projects that you would like to see the HMIS team work on that would be helpful for your agency. You can either write it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Stephanie, did you have, I see you unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to unmute.
Oh, no problem. I was just like, are you waiting for me?
I apologize. I didn't know I was unmuted.
All right. I'm not seeing any comments coming in. So I'll let you all think about that a little bit more. Let me go on to the next slide. So talking about training videos, there obviously are a lot of different components to HMIS. And so these are the different types of training videos that we were wanting to work on for the users. And again, these are kind of higher level categories, but we want to create videos on the client record process. So creating a user or creating a client, creating the ROI, that kind of thing. Enrollment, the enrollment process, services, exits, assessments, data elements, funding sources, coordinated entry, and reports. So data elements would be specific data elements that users have problems with, like the approximate date homelessness started, health insurance, disabling condition, chronically homeless, that kind of thing. So specific videos going over each of those data elements. Funding sources would be related to like ESG funding, VASH, SSVF, RI, those different types of federal funding sources that have specific data entry requirements in HMIS. Coordinated entry, there's obviously different parts of that process for both the access points and the housing providers, as well as reports. So that could be coordinated entry, that could be other things in HMIS. There's a lot of different types of training videos that we want to make. And like I kind of mentioned, these are the main data elements that we're aware of that cause issues for users. I wanted to pause for a minute and get feedback from the group. If there's other data elements that you know either you or other users at your agency struggle with for data entry in HMIS. I got a comment. This would be helpful to train my new case managers. Okay, great. Another comment, relation to head of household. Okay, we can add that. Household management. Okay. Exit destinations. Any other data elements? All right. If you think of any, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I can add them to the list. But that's helpful. Thank you. And then also, like I kind of mentioned, we want to work on the different coordinated entry components and creating videos for those different parts of the process. So for access points, it would be enrolling and adding clients to the community queue, as well as maintaining clients on the community queue. So as many of you know, clients have to have activity in HMIS every 90 days in order to stay on the community queue. So we'd have a video on how to do that in HMIS, what that would look like. We also would like to have videos on adding housing opportunities for those of you that are housing providers, and accepting or denying housing, or we should see housing matches, not opportunities. So if a client is matched to your agency, either accepting or denying that client, and also reports specific to coordinated entry. So hopefully this works. Okay, so so I put up a poll. So if everyone can take a couple minutes to look at it and respond. So the first question is of the large projects that we talked about, which two would you like to be completed first? And if you have another idea for something that's not on this list, go ahead and select other, and in the chat write in what that other project would be. The second question is looking at which type of training videos would you like completed first? So we have kind of the higher level categories that we talked about. Again, for other, please put in the chat what other type of training you would like us to focus on. And then we also asked which two data elements do you most want training on? And finally, which component of the coordinated entry process would you most like training on? So again, this is, please fill it out to the best of your ability, and keeping the other users at your agency in mind also and what they struggle with. This will just help us to support you the best that we can, and try to make the HMIS process easier for you. All right, I'm gonna give it another maybe 30 seconds or so. We have most of you, responses from most of you, just waiting for a few more. All right, 10 more seconds. If you haven't finished yet, please hit that submit button. All right, so hopefully you can see the results. There we go. So which two projects would you like to be completed first? Most of you said the data accuracy dashboard. Yeah. And then the second was the coordinated entry knowledge base article updates. Okay. We also had a good amount of responses for the data quality plan. I love all of your data hearts, you guys. So great, that's really helpful. We also did have a lot of responses for training videos, so great. Second question, which type of training videos would you like completed? Coordinated entry, not surprising since that's kind of new for some of the users. So great, thank you. And then followed by reports, it looks like. So great, nobody had questions on client records or exits or assessments. So, or funding sources, interesting. All right. Which two data elements would you most like additional training on? This one's pretty evenly distributed, but chronically homeless won out by a little bit, followed by approximate date homelessness started. Yes, that is confusing for a lot of people. No one said none. That's good news also. Everyone's committed to that data quality and that data entry. But yes, and just because something isn't at the top of the list, that doesn't mean we're not going to do it. It's just we're trying to focus our efforts a little bit to get you what you need quickly. So don't worry if what you're most interested in isn't the top vote. We also did have a bunch for disabling condition and residence prior. Okay, cool. And the last question is asking about the component of coordinated entry you most want training on, and the most set of reports. So yeah, that makes sense also. So we can work on that for coordinated entry, followed by maintaining clients on the community queue. Yes, we've seen a lot of people curious about that and concerned about that, wanting to make sure their clients are still being considered for housing opportunities. So yes, that makes sense also. Great. So thank you guys for participating in that. That was really helpful. I wanted to give everyone one more minute to think about if there's any other large projects or high-level things that would be helpful for your agency for us to work on for your users. Also wanted to ask for those that are, you know, kind of familiar with the knowledge base and what's available, if there are other training materials that you need that aren't anywhere right now, we'd be happy to hear about that. Or if you're aware of knowledge base articles not related to coordinated entry that you know need updating, I'll give everyone a minute to think about that. And I am just making sure I have all of your responses, so don't mind me. All right, I'm not seeing anything come in. Everybody's really quiet today. So I will move on to the rapid rehousing PPR. And we might end early today. All right. Okay, so the rapid rehousing project performance reports. So the reporting period for these reports was March 1st, 2020 through February 28th, 2021. And on this first page, you can see the project level scores for each rapid rehousing project. And across the top, we have the different measures that we're looking at for rapid rehousing, as well as the threshold for each of those measures. And for each project in each little box, the purple reflects those projects that met the threshold for that measure, and the pink is those that did not. So that's for your easy viewing to see how you did in terms of the thresholds. For those of you rapid rehousing projects that are receiving COC funding, these scores will be used for the next NOFA ranking process. If you're not familiar with that, what it is every year we have to apply to HUD as a COC in order to continue to receive funding from them, which is the funding that all of you are receiving for your projects. And as part of that process, the COC board has to prioritize the projects that are receiving COC funding. And part of how they figure that out and prioritize the projects is using these performance scores. So this isn't the whole score, but this is considered as part of it. So keep that in mind for those of you that are receiving COC funded rapid rehousing. And go ahead and, this is on our website. If you do have a rapid rehousing project and you want to see how you did, you can look this up on our website. All right, so the rapid rehousing goals and outcomes report. This is aggregating the same data that we just saw for each project. This is looking at rapid rehousing as a whole, so that we can see how we're doing and improve as a system. So again, we have all of the different measures for the rapid rehousing projects. Those in purple are the measures that the rapid rehousing project type as a whole met, and the pink on this page are those that did not. So for goal 1, which is clients that entered the project from a literal homeless situation, we're staying fairly consistent across the last two reporting periods. And for this current reporting period, we're at 96%, so that's great. We are just under our threshold, which is 100%, but we're still doing really well. The next measure is looking at how long it's taking clients to be placed in units once they're enrolled in your project. And again, we're maintaining that number of days. We did go up a little bit, but overall we're staying pretty consistent. We are a little bit over our goal of 30 days. The next two measures are looking at income. So goal 6 is looking at adults that increased their income while they were enrolled in the project and remained enrolled at the end of the reporting period. And goal 7 is looking at adults that exited the project with a higher amount of income than they had at entry. For goal 6, which is stayers, meaning they did not exit, we improved a bit, which is great, but we're fairly consistent over the last 2 reporting periods. And goal 7, which is exited clients with increased income, we actually had a dip. And my assumption looking at the data is that it's because of the COVID pandemic. You know, a lot of people lost their jobs or weren't, you know, had cut hours or whatever the case may be. So that seems to be why the adults that exited with increased income went down. So I'll pause a minute in case anyone has experience with this, if they're seeing that less of their clients are exiting with increased income from rapid rehousing. So I'll pause a minute and see if anyone has anything to share on that. All right, not seeing anything coming in or anyone on mute, so I'm going to keep on going. Goal 8 is looking at clients that exited the rapid rehousing project to permanent housing. Again, we're staying fairly consistent, although we did increase this measure, woohoo! And we actually met the threshold when we did not last time, so that's great. Good job, all of you rapid rehousing providers. And the last goal for rapid rehousing is clients that exited from the rapid rehousing project to permanent housing and then later returned to the homeless system. So we are again fairly consistent, although we can't get much lower than where we're at. But we did improve a little bit. So less clients returned to the homeless system during this past reporting period than the one before. And before we move on, so last year when we met with the COC board about these performance reports for the NOFA, they did request for a rapid rehousing project that we make the threshold for returns to homelessness a little more challenging. So right now the threshold is at 10%, meaning that less than 10% of clients will return to homelessness after a permanent housing exit. And they would like us to make it a little more challenging. They also said the same thing for permanent supportive housing. So at the last meeting, we updated their threshold to 7%. And so I would recommend keeping that same threshold for rapid rehousing. So the new threshold would be 7%. But I wanted to give all of you an opportunity to weigh in before we move forward. And if no one weighs in, then it's going to be 7%.
Erin, it's Stephanie.
Hi.
I would just add that with the eviction moratoriums ending most likely on 6/30, I think that picture is going to definitely change. And that's why the returns to homelessness has went down so low, because since families or individuals could not be evicted from their homes for non-payment of rent. Because
Mm-hmm.
so, I don't know, once we lower that, if that means we can never go back up to where we were, if we show signs that we are, not making that threshold again. And, there's so many different factors that have come into play in the last year for different reasons. One, of course, is the moratorium on eviction, which is going to end eventually.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That would be the only concern.
Yeah, we can set the threshold in order to comply with the COC board request. And then if, if it comes to the threshold going up a lot again, we can always go back to them and say, yeah, this isn't working out. But that's good input. Thanks.
That would seem fair, that if we, if it does maintain low, even after these moratoriums, then great, we're doing a great job keeping our families housed, even in a time of, challenges.
Mhm.
But if not, if we have the ability to go back and say, this is why it was this low for this reason, and now it's climbing again for this reason. So,
Yeah. Okay.
that's great.
Any other thoughts? All right. Question, is this under reports on the website? Yes, let me show you really quick. So if you go to ochmis.org and let it load for a little bit. If you go under reports and then project performance reports, that will take you to the screen with the different project types that we do these reports for. So if you click on rapid rehousing, it will show you all of the reports that we've done, but the most recent will be on the top. So I'm looking at the goals and outcomes is what I'm looking at right now. The project scores is what I showed first with the project level data. So we'll adjust the threshold to 7% for now, and then we can reassess if returns increase a lot after the eviction moratorium is lifted. All right, so going into a little bit more detail on the different measures. Goal 1 again is looking at entries from literal homeless situations, and you can see we have the project type score as a whole, as well as the different subpopulations that are being served through the rapid rehousing projects. And those are all pretty high and pretty standard across all of the different subpopulations also, which is great. And you can also see on this report, for those that are not entering from homeless situations, where are they entering from? So permanent housing situations is the highest. So their clients are saying they're entering from a house situation. So that could be true, or it could be maybe a data entry thing that needs to be resolved by the agency. The second highest is family and friends. So they said last night they spent the night at their family or friend's house, followed by temporary situations. That can include hotels, motels. Wow, I'm blanking right now. A residential project or halfway house. And then institutional settings would be like hospital, substance abuse, psychiatric facility, that kind of thing. And then we also have 5 missing. Our next goal, we're looking at how many days it's taking clients to be placed in units. On average, it's 51 days. For veterans, it's higher, which I found interesting. I don't know if anyone on the call has experience with housing veterans through rapid rehousing, and if there are additional obstacles that are coming up for veterans, it's making this process take longer, but would welcome that feedback if any of you have it. I'm looking to see if I see any veteran providers. Coco. No pressure if you don't have anything to share, but if you do, and there are additional barriers to placing veterans in housing units, would love to hear it. Oh, and also Sierra. Sierra said a lot of MIA clients not returning case manager calls, sadly. Yeah. As well as some issues with housing veterans with criminal history in certain categories. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Coco says she doesn't work with the veterans program. Okay, but yes, the criminal history, yes, that would make it more difficult. Thanks, Sierra. And then also, in addition to the subpopulations, you can see we broke down the clients by how many days it's taking to place them in units. So most are being placed within 30 days, so that's great. And then you can see the breakdown 31 to 60 days as well as 61 plus. All right, so again, we have our 2 income measures. This first one is looking at clients who are still in the project at the end of the reporting period, but increased their income since project entry. Pretty consistent across all subpopulations. And you can see in our little donut here how these clients are broken down. So the yellow means the client maintained their income between entry and the end of the reporting period. The teal is the increased income, which is what the measure is looking at. And then decreased income, 16%, unknown, 12%. So the good news is clients are at least maintaining their income, if not increasing it. So, and that's a large majority of the clients. So that's good news. So now we're looking at clients that exited with increased income. Again, pretty consistent across the subpopulations, although households with children are a little bit higher. And then we have our little donut again, and there's a much larger chunk of these clients that maintain their income instead of increasing their income. And I think that's also part of why, if you remember back at the beginning, where'd it go? Oh, the adults that increased their income and exit went down a good chunk. It appears that the reason is because clients maintained their income but did not increase it. So that that's part of why that measure has gone down. Goal 8. We are looking at clients that exited from rapid rehousing to permanent housing situations. Households with only children is a little bit lower than the rest. That's because the number of clients included is so small, so that's not really significant. But other than that, we're mostly consistent with households with children doing a little bit better than the other subpopulations. And for those that are not exiting to permanent housing, we have the breakdown here of where they're going. Unfortunately, most of these clients are going to homeless situations after they exit the project. What's probably happening, so for rapid rehousing, keep in mind that They might still be on the street until they're placed in a housing unit. It kind of depends on the project and whether or not they can place them temporarily somewhere. So for those that are not being placed in a housing unit, it might be that they were on the street when they started working with them, and maybe they disappeared, or they otherwise weren't able to work with them, and so they're staying on the streets after exit. That could be what's happening here. It could also be emergency shelters that they're exiting to. That's counting them in this homeless situation category. The second highest is missing, which is fairly common across different project types, as clients disappear, or you're not able to complete an exit interview with them for some reason. Those exits are being counted in this missing category. And the final measure is looking at clients that return to homelessness after being housed. So this is the measure we were just talking about, where we increased, or we made the threshold a little more challenging. The scores are pretty consistent, again, across all project types or subpopulations. And in our little donut here, you can see where clients are returning to after they become homeless again in the homeless system. So they exited rapid rehousing, they went to most likely their own housing unit, and then later they returned to one of these project types. And the most common is rapid rehousing. So keep in mind that coordinated entry isn't included on this list here. So what's probably happening is the clients are returning to coordinated entry and then going to rapid rehousing, which makes sense because if they've already been assessed and they know that the rapid rehousing assistance is the best fit for the client, it would make sense for them to return to that same type of assistance. Following rapid rehousing, we have emergency shelter, which also makes sense because if they're waiting for rapid rehousing assistance, they might be placed in emergency shelter, so they're easier to get back in contact with. And then after emergency shelter, we have street outreach. And for those that are exiting to permanent housing, that initial exit after rapid rehousing, so this is where they are initially exiting to. So most are exiting to either owned or rent with no subsidy, meaning the client is paying for the unit or whatever on their own. The next group is owned or rent with subsidy. So they're receiving some other kind of assistance at exit. And then just a couple are exiting to family or friends permanently. So those are, so that's the data I have to share on the rapid rehousing reports. We do have some time if anyone has questions about the reports, how the data is pulled, if there's anything specific you want to talk about the reports, or if you've come up with any ideas for what would be helpful for the HMIS team to work on for your agency. We do have some time to talk about that. But other than that, that's all I have. So I will sit for a few minutes and see if anything comes in the chat or if anyone has any questions or comments. All right, I'm not seeing anything come in, so I'm gonna wrap up the meeting. We will send out the recording from this meeting as well as the meeting notes for your reference. The next meeting will be on June 10th, same time, 1:30 via Zoom. And thank you so much for attending. If you haven't already, please put your agency name into the chat box so we know who's participating. And have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for your feedback on the planning stuff.